So welcome to the Fiscal Sponsorship Orientation webinar for new projects. Like I said, my name is Courtney Harge. I'm a program associate here in Fiscal Sponsorship at Fractured Atlas, and I'm here to guide you through our orientation process. So thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar. We do appreciate you being a proactive member and you going out of your way to learn about our program policies and procedures before diving headfirst into your fundraising. If at any time there's an audio issue or an issue with the webinar, please use the chat box to let me know, and I will do my best to troubleshoot the problem. Like I said, everything is being recorded, so don't feel pressure to jot down everything. We will send you a link to this recording and a PDF of the slides. And if you have questions, there will definitely be an opportunity at the end for questions, but we will also be able to take some questions during. Sometimes it gets complicated, so we're going to definitely move as many questions as possible to the end because a lot of it will be covered. Okay. So in the last 12 months, our fiscally sponsored projects has raised over $19 million. We currently have 3,712 active projects. And as I'm sure you're aware by now, our fiscal sponsorship extends some of the benefits of our 501c3 status to artists and arts organizations so they can solicit tax-deductible donations from individuals and institutional funding, which would otherwise only be available to nonprofits. With these over 35 or 3,700 fiscally sponsored projects, they're producing either one-off discrete projects like a single film or a dance production, or sponsoring them for their ongoing artistic activities like startup theater companies or the works in progress of a visual artist. Ultimately, we have the largest fiscal sponsored program in the nonprofit arts sector. And how many Fractured Atlas staff members administer this program? 7. Um, we are able to run the largest arts fiscal sponsorship program in the country with a lean staff of 7 individuals. Only a few of us who are dedicated full-time to the program. Here's the team. I'm in the center. My name is Courtney Hart. Like I said, I'm a program associate here. To what would be my left is Diane DiBasella, our senior program director in charge of fiscal sponsorship. We then have Teresa Hubbard, a program specialist. Amanda Keating, program associate. Nathan Zabidio, also a program specialist. Aisha Jordan, another program associate. And who's missing is Sabrina Cedeno, our membership associate. So that is it. Our 7 happy faces are the people who are most likely to help you with your fiscal sponsorship issues. So when you give us a call, shoot us an email, or chat us through our online chat function, you're going to get one of us. To give you a little bit about myself, I am a theater producer and director outside of my role here at Fractured Atlas. I've worked in fiscal sponsorship and nonprofit arts for the last 6 years. And I really love getting to talk to artists about using fiscal sponsorship to further their projects, to develop their art, to connect with the funding that they need to make the projects happen. The way we're able to run a program of this size so smoothly and efficiently is that we have custom-built online tools that mean a large portion of the program is automated, and there's a great deal of functionality at your fingertips that allows you to control a large portion of your fundraising activities. So we can be so helpful because there's a lot of information and a lot of access that allows you to help yourself. The purpose of today's presentation is to show you a path forward with our fiscal sponsorship program by giving you a tour of what's available for you on our website and an outline of some of our program policies and procedures. Once our board of directors approves you for the program, you will be able to log into our website and access your My Fiscal Sponsorship page. This is your primary portal for interacting with the program. We're going to talk through some of the features of this page as well as the program manual. There's no substitute for hands-on learning, and we can't possibly cover everything in this presentation, so I encourage you to thoroughly explore this page on our website and read through the program manual. It's pretty short, as your first steps once you're set up with fiscal sponsorship. One of the first things to understand about our fiscal sponsorship program is that it makes a distinction between earned and contributed revenue. Earned revenue is simply revenue that is received in exchange for a good or a service. So if you're a musician and you're selling CDs, somebody gives you $10 for a CD, you give them a CD, that is earned revenue. That is they've made an equal exchange of money for goods or services. Contributed revenue or donations are revenues in which the donor expects nothing in return. They are giving you these funds because they believe in your work, want to support you, and are getting nothing in return. The tax deduction is a tertiary benefit from offered by the IRS, but ultimately they are donating these funds to support your work. Um, Earned revenue needs to be made payable directly to you. We do not process earned revenue for the purposes of our fiscally sponsored projects. We can only accept contributed revenue. We also cannot process private investments or equity. If you've got for-profit investors involved with your project, we have to have a longer conversation about their relationship to your project, but we can still fiscally sponsor you. We do have means to work with projects that are working with for-profit investors. However, that is a larger conversation that has to happen. And if that is something you're interested in, feel free to email support@fracturedatlas.org after the webinar, and we can talk longer about it. So we can help you process donations or contributed revenue 3 different ways: by debit or credit card on our website, or through a crowdfunding campaign either on Indiegogo or Rocket Hub that has been linked to your fiscal sponsorship. A donation made by check payable to Fractured Atlas, and non-cash donations of goods made in kind for the charitable purposes of your project. Each of our fiscally sponsored projects has a donation landing page on our website where they can direct donors who want to contribute by debit or credit card. We can accept up to credit card donations up to $20,000 per transaction. If you have the enviable problem of knowing a donor who wants to contribute more than $20,000 and charge it to their credit card, you just need to ask them to do so over multiple transactions and have them wait about 5 minutes between each so that our system doesn't think that it's a duplicate donation made by mistake. Donors who contribute by credit card are required to provide an email address, and we automatically send them a receipt. Please note that you are prohibited from collecting credit card info from your donors and entering it into our website on your own. Donors must input their own debit or credit card info or contact Fractured Atlas to process a donation over the phone. Your collecting of this information would open us up to some liability issues since you, the sponsored project, are not authorized to use our credit card processor in this way. Your donation landing page is a public-facing page on our website where you should put content that you want potential donors to see. This can be an image or video and a brief description of your project or what your current activities are. You edit your fiscally sponsored projects online profile on our website through your My Fiscal Sponsorship page under the online profile button. You can see it highlighted by the green arrow. When you submit changes, an automated email will go to a member of our staff asking for review and approval before it goes live on our website. We typically turn this around in 1 to 2 business days. We'll either approve the changes outright or be in touch with you directly via email if we have questions about the new material that you're putting up on your profile. We can also accept check donations that are made payable to Fractured Atlas. You're welcome to have donors write your name or the name of your sponsored project on the memo line, but this isn't entirely necessary because we ask that your donors mail their contributions to you first. You will then report the donations made by check on your My Fiscal Sponsorship page under the Donations button, highlighted again via the green arrow. Here is where you'll create the donor record for check contributions. You'll provide the donor's name, contact info, and other information available to you from their check before forwarding it on to us for processing and deposit. You'd be surprised how many unreported checks arrive at our office, which we end up spending a lot of time doing detective work to figure out which of our fiscally sponsored projects they are designated for. We often have to mail unreported checks back to the donor or back to you, as it's crucial that we receive this info in advance. So to recap, your donors will send you their check contributions first. You will submit donation reports on our website and then forward the checks on to us for processing and deposit. You will be sent an email notification once the donation is processed with a copy of the receipt to forward on to your donor with your thanks. We can accept check donations of any size, but those of $1,000 or more require an extra piece of documentation called the major gift letter. The major gift letter is a simple form letter that's available for you to download from your My Fiscal Sponsorship page for your donor to complete and sign. You're able to upload the major gift letter as an attachment to the donation report, but it's not required. Feel free to send us the check to process before you receive the major gift letter if you aren't able to obtain both at the same time. We're happy to process reported checks of $1,000 or more without a major gift letter, but the donated funds will not be made available to you until we are in receipt of the signed and completed letter. As a nonprofit, we need to submit ourselves to an audit, and this is part of our checks and balances process. This makes sure that we have verified the donor's intent and the donor's identity. So please make sure to include the major gift letter when you're soliciting donations. There are a couple of different types of monetary donations that we cannot accept, and they are cash or money orders. In order for us to be able to issue a tax receipt, we need to be able to directly link money back to a specific individual or entity. A credit card transaction or a check with the donor's bank account and routing numbers on it provides us with exactly that direct link. You're welcome to accept cash or money orders directly from donors who do not want their contribution to be tax deductible. If, however, they want a tax receipt, instruct them to contribute via debit or credit card on our website or by check made payable to Fractured Atlas. We can, however, help you accept non-cash or in-kind donations. These donations have to be physical, tangible items that exist in the real world and that you can touch with your hands, the ownership of which is fully donated over to your project. Let's unpack that a bit further. We can only process donations of physical, tangible items, so they need to exist in the real world and be things that you can touch. Donations of a person's time or services are not considered by the IRS to be a charitable, tax-deductible donation. So if a restaurant donates food or beverages to you, they can get a receipt for those items. But if they donate their catering service, they would not get a tax receipt that includes their contributed time. We can, however, accept gift cards or gift certificates from businesses that would otherwise sell these items. In order to be tax deductible, non-cash donations need to be fully donated over to the charitable purposes of your sponsored project. So donations of rent or rental items wouldn't count. If someone gives you equipment for free that they would normally charge a rental fee for, and you need to return the items when you're done, it's really more of a loan. Similarly, donated space wouldn't count as tax deductible as you're only being given partial interest in the property. Finally, we can't accept donations of donated airfare, air miles, or automobiles. As with check donations, you'll need to report non-cash donations on your My Fiscal Sponsorship page. Here, you will also be able to download the non-cash donation letter. All of that is highlighted by the green arrow. This is another simple form letter for the donor to fill out when they provide a description and value of the items they are contributing. You can upload the non-cash donation letter to the donation report when you submit it through the My Fiscal Sponsorship page. For non-cash donations valued at $250 or more, we will require a photograph of the donated item or items. So be sure to take that photograph as soon as you receive the donation, especially if it's donated food or beverage. With all donations that we process for the purpose of fiscally sponsored projects, we deduct an administrative fee to cover the costs of running this program. Our administrative fee pays for our staff time, our website, things like credit card processing and bank fees. The fee starts at 7%, but as you raise more money, the fee is lowered on check donations. If you raise $150,000 or more over the lifetime of your fiscal sponsorship, the administrative fee on check donations goes down to 6%. At $500,000 or more, it is reduced to 5%. And if you raise 1 million or more, the fee goes down to 4%. And we have had products raise at least that much money over their time with us. The fee remains at 7% for credit card donations, as the processing fee that we incur does not change. We also charge a 7% fee on the stated value of donated non-cash items. You can either have us charge this fee to your credit card on file or have us deduct it from your available fund balance. You can always check your fund balance on your My Fiscal sponsorship page here, as highlighted by the green arrow. But maybe we're going too fast and should take a step back. Let me hold my horses here. Before we even start processing donations, how do we get people to actually consider making a contribution? Ask. That is the simplest and quickest way to get donors to contribute to your project. We have an individual appeal letter template, among other fundraising templates, available for you to take a look at on your My Fiscal Sponsorship page. Crafting a good letter is more than just plugging your info into a formula and pressing send. So I would strongly encourage you to use this template as a way to kickstart your brainstorming about the letter that you intend to send out. But before you send your appeal to potential donors, please send us a copy for our review and approval. You can email your fundraising materials to support@fracturedatlas.org. A good rule of thumb is that anytime you mention Fractured Atlas or promise patrons tax deductibility, you should run it by us before sending out. We require that you do this for a few reasons. First off, it's in your best interest to have another experienced pair of eyes take a look at what you're about to send out. At this point, I've reviewed probably hundreds of donor solicitations, and we have a pretty good idea of what a successful, well-presented appeal letter looks like. We can offer you some tips and tools to potentially maximize the effectiveness of your fundraising materials. So we'll definitely provide feedback where appropriate. But we're also looking to see that you're correctly representing the fiscal sponsorship arrangement. To that end, we've crafted some standard text that we require you to include with your donor solicitation materials. This can be found on page 12 of the program manual. It's just a quick two-sentence paragraph that succinctly summarizes the fiscal sponsorship arrangement. You're welcome to include it as fine print at the bottom of your materials, but it must be in there somewhere. We're also looking to see what you're offering donors in exchange for the contribution. For example, advertising space. As a note on advertising versus corporate sponsorship, advertising is not something that we can accept through fiscal sponsorship. You can't offer advertising with a tax deductible contribution. And advertising is considered anything where the donor or the what would be the advertiser has control over the placement or size of its content, or any type of endorsement of any particular type of product or service or individual. Um, When you send us your materials, we'll definitely have a longer conversation about something if you feel it could be advertising. But note that corporate sponsorships, which can be separate, are eligible for tax deduction. The simplest way is if you, the project, are in control of the content, then it can be a sponsorship. If the person giving the funds wants to be in control of the content, then it's advertising, and that is not tax deductible. Other things you might be looking for: are you running a raffle? This may seem like a good idea, but you're prohibited from running raffles through your fiscal sponsorship. It's considered a form of gambling that is regulated generally by state gaming commissions. So that information or that process can't be tax deductible. It is definitely, again, a longer conversation that I'm happy to have, but ultimately, raffles and advertising are things that cannot be offered in exchange for a tax-deductible donation. Whenever you offer donors rewards of goods or services in exchange for their contribution, this makes their donation partially deductible, above and beyond the fair market value of the rewards they're receiving. So again, that CD I talked about, let's say with a $50 donation, you give them your $10 CD. Then the donation is only tax deductible for the amount over the value of the CD. So $50 donation, $10 CD, $40 could feasibly be eligible for tax deduction. We need donations to be at least partially deductible. You wouldn't be able to offer donors rewards that of equal or greater value to the amount that they are contributing. Such an exchange no longer becomes contributed revenue and is a purchase or earned revenue. One place where partial deductibility often comes into play is with a crowdfunding campaign. We partner with the platforms Indiegogo and Rocket Hub so that you can create campaigns on either of these sites. That way, we're able to process donations to your campaign and issue donors tax receipts because these campaigns are linked to your fiscal sponsorship. It's likely you've heard of crowdfunding and supported campaigns by now, so I'm sure you know what it is. We encourage our projects to run a campaign at least once as part of their overall crowdfunding strategy. It's a great tool to raise both funds and awareness about your work. You set a deadline and fundraising goal and often offer differing levels where you incentivize donations by rewarding donors for their contributions. These perks are often partially deductible, so we'll be looking for you to provide info related to the fair market value of what you offer your donors in exchange. Before your campaign launches, we'll want to take a look first to provide feedback and make sure your giving levels take into account potential partial deductibility. To get started with crowdfunding, you head to your My Fiscal Sponsorship page and click on the Accessorize button. Sometimes there's an issue with our API between Indiegogo and Rocket Hub, so if you encounter a technical error as you create your campaign, please check in with us at support@fracturedatlas.org so that way we can make sure your campaign gets linked to your fiscal sponsorship before it goes live. Alternately, if you don't want to run a crowdfunding campaign, or if you want to offer giving levels to donors on an ongoing basis, you could add some to your donation landing page on your website. From the My Fiscal Sponsorship page, click the Donations button and then Giving Levels, highlighted here again by the green arrow. Your donors will then be presented with options on our website for different giving levels that they can contribute at. And if you want to offer donors rewards, their online debit or credit card donation can be partially tax deductible. Applying for grants. Fiscal sponsorship can open the door to institutional funding, like from foundations or corporations. As with approvals of your individual solicitations and crowdfunding campaigns, we want to be involved when you apply for grants from these sources. Before you start looking at grants, however, you should be aware of our grant eligibility requirement. Funders have approached us and told us that they would prefer that any application they receive have support of at least $1,000 in contributed income. So they want to know that you have motivated your donors to contribute to your project to the tune of $1,000. Because of that, we do not allow fiscally sponsored projects who have not raised $1,000 in contributed income to apply for grants. If you feel that you have, and it's just not showing in your fiscal sponsorship, but you have previously run a crowdfunding campaign, or you have previously been awarded a grant, you can simply email that to support@fracturedatlas.org, and we will waive that eligibility requirement once we reviewed those documents. After you've passed the grant eligibility requirement, we review all grants that are submitted that mention Fractured Atlas or fiscal sponsorship. We require 10 business days before the deadline to review the grant process. Otherwise, we have a $75 rush fee. And what that means is we will review the guidelines of the funder. We will review all of your materials, and we will make sure that you have the strongest application possible, that you fulfill the guidelines, and that you have any of the supplemental materials that are needed to properly submit your application. Officially, Fractured Atlas is the applicant of record, as we are the 501c3 tax-exempt organization. So we need to have a record of everything that you submit, letters of inquiry, grants, any type of formal application that requires mention of fiscal sponsorship. It's something we have to review because we are legally responsible. So we do also need to review any contracts, any award letters, any reporting requirements. It is your responsibility to complete those items, but we do have to make sure that we review them and have copies of them on record. Okay, so now that you've successfully solicited donations and had patrons donate to your fiscally sponsored project, what next? How do you access these donated funds? Well, first, you'll need us to send the info for your checking account, which you can do by downloading the sign-up form for electronic funds transfer, or EFT, from your My Fiscal Sponsorship page under the Fund Releases button. We strongly recommend that you have an account for your project's finances that is separate from your personal finances. This doesn't need to be a business bank account. It can just be a separate personal account, but it should be separate from where you do your everyday transactions. Here's what the electronic funds transfer form looks like. It's pretty simple to complete. You can send us a completed form with a voided check in one of three ways. You can scan and email it to support@fracturedatlas.org. You can fax it to 212-277-8025, or you can snail mail it to us. All of our contact information is available on our website. We need a voided check or other document from the bank that lists your address, account number, and routing number to make sure to verify that the bank has a record of this account, and to verify the information. This makes sure that the account is properly connected to your fiscal sponsorship, and that funds transfers can go off without a hitch. Once you've received your checking account info, you'll be able to submit a fund release request through our website for available funds. We hold all donations for 7 days after we process them to make sure that the check doesn't bounce or that the credit card charge isn't disputed. After 7 days, donated funds are available for you to request, unless we're waiting on a major gift letter for a check donation of $1,000 or more. We're happy to hold on to donated funds as long as you need us to, provided that you remain a dues-paying member of Fractured Atlas with an actively fiscally sponsored project. Then we'll release them to you when you have project-related expenses. We do not automatically transfer funds to our projects. As a fiscal sponsor, we need to demonstrate that we maintain a certain degree of discretion and control over how funds raised through our program are used. The fund release request process is a control in place to make sure that fiscally sponsored projects are using funds in alignment with our charitable mission. When you submit a fund release request, you'll let us know how much you need and how much you'll be spending and how you'll be spending the money using some pretty broad expense category budget line items. So you can say that $1,000 is for public relations and $500 is for space rental. There is an other expense category, but here's a helpful hint. We almost never let anyone use other as an explanation for their expenses. Almost 100% of the time, your expenses will fit into one of the categories provided. One thing you're not allowed to do is re-grant funds raised through our program to another individual or entity with no strings attached. The best use of fiscal sponsorship is to raise money to create on expenditures related to the art that you're creating or the service you're providing. This can include paying people a salary or stipend for their time, but you're not able to award grants through fiscal sponsorship funds to other entities. For particularly large fund release requests, we do need fund release request documents. We reserve the right to request documentation for any fund released. We also ask that you have documentation on hand for any fund release, but we require documentation for any fund release that's $5,000 or more. What that means is we want to see receipts, contracts, invoices, anything that states purchase orders, anything that states that these funds are being used to purchase these particular items or to pay these particular people. Whatever you can offer is helpful. And we do reserve the right, like I said, to ask for them for any fund release request. So it is possible that we will not approve your request without documentation. When you applied for fiscal sponsorship, if you recall, you were asked to provide a legal entity with a U.S. taxpayer ID. This is either an individual with their Social Security number or a business entity with its employer identification number or EIN. We can work with any type of legal entity, individual, sole proprietor, limited liability, corporation, etc. We ask for this because funds dispersed through our fiscal sponsorship program are reported as income to that legal entity in the form of a grant. Each January, we issue 1099 MISCs to individuals, partnerships, and LLCs sowing funds dispersed the previous calendar year as Box 3, Other or Grant Income to file with their other tax documents. Corporations are not issued 1099s, but they will still need to report Fractured Atlas income on their 990s or other important tax documents. That said, you should not necessarily have to pay income tax on Fractured Atlas fund releases. Because we only release funds to you when you request it for use on your specific project-related expenses, you should be able to offset the income on your taxes using the expenses that the funds paid for. We strongly recommend that you use an accountant to file and keep careful documentation of your expenditures. An important thing to keep in mind is that your project is a separate business entity from Fractured Atlas. One of the great aspects of this is that you maintain complete ownership over the work that you create. But we do not grant you 501c3 status. Only the IRS can do that. Rather, we are extending some of the benefits of our nonprofit status to the projects that we sponsor. To that extent, we'll want you to check in with us on a few things, primarily the use of our tax ID. I'm sure if a friend of yours asked for your Social Security number, you'd be curious about why. In the same way, anytime you encounter a situation that requires our EIN, please let us know so that we can advise on its usage. We're happy to provide sponsorship confirmation letters addressed to specific potential donors or sponsors to help grease the wheels, but we cannot provide a one-size-fits-all confirmation document with our EIN, as we want to be involved each and every time someone is requesting our info. Just email us at support@fracturedatlas.org. We're not able to help you set up a bank account using our EIN as well. Any account that you create needs to be set up in your own name with your own tax identifier. So don't sign up for anything that requires our tax ID without running it by us first. We can also provide you with a letter to help you obtain nonprofit rates from vendors that offer them. It's ultimately up to the vendor if they will extend you their rate, but most are willing to do so. This is especially helpful with space rentals. If the venue offers a nonprofit rate, we can usually help you get a discount. Again, just shoot us an email and we'll send you the letter. Nonprofit rates do not apply to bulk postage for your mailings, something that you would only have access to if you had your own 501c3 status. We're also not able to help you with sales tax exemption because this is simply not transferable. It is something that we would not be able to offer to our members or our fiscally sponsored projects outside of the state of New York. And within the state of New York, it is something that we are just unable to transfer. The final major fiscal sponsorship policy to bring to your attention is our annual report. For any fiscally sponsored project that either processed donations or requested fund releases in a given calendar year, we are going to require that you submit to us an annual report updating us on your activities. The report is due on April 1st, and we will send out 3 reminders starting at the beginning of the year. If you don't complete the report by April 1st, we will freeze your project. But it's relatively simple to unfreeze your fiscal sponsorship. All you need to do is submit the report. You can access your annual report on the My Fiscal Sponsorship page under the Info Reports button. The report is entirely online, so you don't need to prepare a different document, and it has 2 major components. The first is that we ask you to provide a brief narrative description of what you accomplished the previous calendar year. This can be as detailed as you'd like, though we would prefer that you keep it relatively brief so that it doesn't take us too long to review. With the narrative, you provide a numerical impact for your work to show how many people were exposed to your work and how many artists participated. We also ask for updated financials. Because we only process contributed revenue for your fiscally sponsored project, we are only aware of income and expenditures relating to the funds that we've handled. So here's an opportunity to tell us about other funds spent. Other funds handled separately from the program, where they came from and how they were spent. Also, if you changed how funds released through our program were spent, like if you said that $1,000 is going to be used for transportation, but you ended up spending it on utilities, here's your chance to let us know so that we can better adjust our own books. The annual report is another important way that we demonstrate the discretion and control over how funds raised through our program are used. This is also a way for us to collect data about the artists and arts organizations that we serve, so we can better understand our own impact in the nonprofit arts sector in the United States. The more accurately you can provide your data, the more complete is our picture for the kind of business our sponsored projects are able to do in their own communities. I'm going to open up for questions momentarily, but I hope you've gotten a sense for how easy your fiscal sponsorship program is to use and how much power you have at your fingertips through the online tools available on our website. I would encourage you once again to thoroughly explore your My Fiscal Sponsorship page and our program manual for a more comprehensive overview of all of our program policies and procedures. Before we open up for questions, I'd like to quickly plug Fractured Atlas's other programs and services. First is Artfully. Artfully is a customer relationship management and ticketing software that does have some functionality shared with fiscal sponsorship. Through Artfully, you can manage your donor communications, you can manage your ticket sales, both free and paid ticketing. And for fiscally sponsored projects, there is an aspect to be able to take donations. Spacefinder. Spacefinder is a resource for connecting artists with venues. You can search by use, you can search by price, you can search by location, but it's to help you get to the venues that you would need. And finally, our insurance program, the most practical but necessary of our programs. Insurance allows artists to insure their work, get general liability insurance, insure events, and we really try to work with artists to get the information that they may need to make sure that they are protected and the people that work with them are protected. So now I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Feel free to type them in the question box, and I will respond to them as needed. You can also send any of your questions to support at fracturedatlas.org. Now here is the first question. The question is by somebody who is currently fiscally sponsored, who's not necessarily been very active, and that's okay. We understand that projects have an ebb or flow in their work, and sometimes you receive donations and haven't dispersed any funds, or haven't quite gotten to receiving donations yet. But the answer is yes. We do still require all of our projects to send an annual report. This just is a way to check in, and it lets our projects really assess what they've done in the year. It is year by year. So if you didn't receive any funds in a year and you did not have any fund release requests in a year, then you may not have to at that point do an annual report. But if you received funds or requested funds in a calendar year, then yes, you would have to file the report. And the best way to see if you need to file your report is to log into your membership, go check file annual report, and see what reports show up for you. Sorry. Where did forgive the delay? There you go. So yes, very happy to help. Are there other questions? Oh, this is a very good question. For in-kind donations, do we assess the 7% administrative fee for the donations? And the answer is yes. We do assess our administrative fee based on the reported value of those donations. And does this value count towards lifetime donations? And the answer to that is no. Not in-kind donations do not count towards your donation total in the same way. They are, and actually, I'm sorry, they are counted as income because technically you did receive these items. The income is reported, so they do show up, in fact, on your 1099. But where we don't count them is in the $1,000 grant eligibility requirement. If you get a large amount of non-cash donations and you would like to have them considered in the towards fee reduction, towards that lifetime total, toward getting a reduced administrative fee, we are happy to talk about that on a case-by-case basis. This next question, if somebody's soliciting donations at a live music event that does not have a ticket fee or cover charge, do I need to count some of the donations as tax deductible? So if people are coming in and it's basically suggested donation, like nobody is required to pay, but people are giving, the answer is no. That contribution can be considered fully tax deductible because they did not receive an item as a condition of their donation. They were at an event that somebody could have just walked into for free, so it has no additional value, and they chose to donate. Again, I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have, but if that is all, this has been an excellent webinar. You guys have been very wonderful. I really appreciate it. And like I said, you can reach us at support@fracturedatlas.org. We also have other webinars in this series, which are definitely worth having a look at, definitely worth checking out. So we do these every Tuesday night at 7:30, so there's something new there. We also do have older webinars that we can share with you if you have something you're interested in wanting to revisit. But thank you so much. Hopefully you have a more clear picture of the road forward for how to use fiscal sponsorship. And it's been a pleasure getting to speak with you. Have a great night, everyone.